Welcome to Trucks. I've got an awesome show for you today because I'm starting a new buildup called Sergeant Rock. Now, the basis of this buildup is this old 41 Dodge Power Wagon that I pulled out of the field, and the purpose of this buildup is to build the biggest, baddest off-road truck possible. One that'll handle anything: mud, rocks, sand, deep water, you name it. But still needs to be street legal. Now, number two, to answer as many questions and show you as many tricks as possible. That way you can utilize them when you build your own project. And number three, to build a rig that pays tribute to the legendary B-17 bomber of World War II, the Memphis Belle. So hold on, because here we go. Okay, as you can see, this truck already looks a good bit different than when I first rolled it in here. That's because the first thing I did was ship it off to the guys at the Alton Company in Pigeon, Michigan, and have them strip the body and smooth everything down. Now, you might be thinking, well, heck, that was easy. The whole body was in great shape at first glance. But let me tell you a few secrets about this body. It's not just an average old Dodge. No, decades ago, for whatever reason, somebody took an international cab of the same era that looks almost exactly like the Dodge and spliced it to the Dodge front end. Of course, the seam line ran right down here. That's why I had to custom make a floor inside. Now, even though the International and Dodge cabs are almost identical, there was a little bit of misalignment here, and of course the body lines were way out of whack. So what the Alton guys did is cut all this mess out, custom build a panel that smoothed everything out, line these body lines up. It's a nice piece of work. Now, you may be wondering, who is this Alton Company? Well, they specialize in custom body conversions for trucks. They'll take a regular cab and stretch it into an extended cab. Throw in a couple doors, make it a crew cab. They make custom beds. You pretty much name it. And since I've designed a very special custom bed to go on this project, they said they wanted to take a shot at building it. Okay. So first of all, I got together with Nick and Dino and laid out how I wanted the bed to look and the features that I wanted it to have.
Loaded with rivets here, you know, permanent. That would match better if it was permanently riveted.
And this is what we have so far. Now, the entire bed was constructed out of a combination of 12 and 14 gauge galvanneal steel. So it's very strong, very heavy, and it's got some corrosion protection. Now, the bed sides are straight because I wanted more of a contemporary look here than the old style beds that came up and flared out at the top. Now, we also have a body line that matches the truck that runs all the way around the perimeter of the bed. And then in this recessed area, we're going to stick an insert of brushed stainless steel and hold it in place with rivets. That'll give us a nice, tough military look that will not only match the truck, but also the Memphis Belle. Now, one of the main goals of the Sergeant Rock project is to show you how to build the biggest off-road truck possible and still keep it street legal. So obviously, tires are a big deal here. And these tires are a really big deal. This is the biggest DOT-approved tire on the market, made specifically for light trucks. So it's different than the military Michelins or the agricultural Firestones. This is a street-legal truck tire. Now, this is made by Interco. They call it the IROC, and it stands 49 inches tall, 21 inches wide, and we just put it on the scales, weighed in at just under 180 pounds. This is a tire. Now, the biggest surprise here is the options you've got in rim size. Interco will build this for up to a 20-inch rim. Now, guys, this is not for the bling-bling look. This is to get enough brake in there to get these things stopped. That is a nice option. Now, of course, if you're using that big of a tire, you got to custom make your fenders because we don't want the tire to come up and hit the fender if we get into a situation where the axle is articulating and tucking that tire up here into the fender well. Also, it was very important to keep the original military look to these fenders. And you can see the guys at Alton did a really good job doing that. Fenders are still flat on top, got a nice rounded edge, and this lip is about 1 inch tall. These will match perfectly with those front fenders on the truck. Underneath the bed, right in the center, they've built in a very strong square tube framework. What this will do is give the bed the strength to support anything we want to put in there, like, you know, stuff. All right, quit drooling. Okay, here at the front of the bed, notice we have these little pockets built right in. That is for my exhaust system. Now what I'm going to do is run a big stack up each side. It's going to tuck in between the bed and the cab. It's going to go up and kick back right at the top of the cab. Similar to a big rig, but much smoother, much cooler. All right, I'm going to have Jay over there come over and give me a hand. We're going to put this on, see how it looks. Push it in. Well, there it is. Now hopefully this gives you an idea of just how cool this is going to look. Now of course we still need running boards and a tailgate and a few other things, but once this thing is finished, it is going to be awesome. All right, there's the bed and the fenders. These are the tires. What kind of axles is it going to take to turn these big old boys? Well, I'll give you a hint. They're really, really big, and we'll tell you about them after the break. Hey, welcome back to Trucks and the beginnings of Project Sergeant Rock, my old 41 Dodge Power Wagon. Now, one question I get from you guys a lot is how do I build a really big truck? What goes into it? What are the components? How does it all go together? Those are really good questions. And answering those questions is one of the main reasons for a project like Sergeant Rock. Now, obviously, I'm using 49-inch tall tires. I need some serious axles that won't snap like twigs every time I hit the gas. The answer is right under your feet. These are 2.5-ton Rockwell axles that came stock on big old military trucks. These are some of the biggest, baddest axles that you can put under a truck. Take a look at this. They've got massive top-loading differentials, square housings, huge hubs. If you want to take your truck out and just flog on it all day long and drive away without any broken parts, you need Rockwells, pure and simple. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh, yeah, they're great. Where the heck am I going to find them? It's not as hard as you think. 2 words, Memphis Equipment. Memphis Equipment has been dealing in surplus military truck parts since the late 1940s. Their inventory is absolutely astounding, from new engine parts to complete engines, drive shafts, headlights, trannies, transfer cases, and of course, there's axles. Lots of axles. Now, when you buy an axle from Memphis Equipment, you have a couple of choices. They'll ship it to you just like it came out of the truck, or for a few dollars more, they'll go through it, replace the seals or bearings, and make sure it's in excellent original operating condition before they send it your way. If you're looking for any kind of military truck parts, Memphis Equipment should be the first place you call. Okay, like I said before, the 2.5-ton Rockwell is an awesome axle, but it can be better. It can always be better. Remember, these things were designed to go under a big old cargo truck, not a hardcore off-roader. So, to make sure that they handle some serious abuse, we shipped them off to a place called USA 6x6, had them work a little magic on them. The first thing they did was disassemble everything and install lockers in both differentials, and then replace all the seals and the bearings and all the studs here in the knuckles and the hubs. Now on the front axle, they also installed manual locking hubs. On the rear axle, they installed these chrome moly caps, which are a heck of a lot stronger than the old cast iron stockers. And then here on the housing, they cut off the original pan and welded on a special USA 6x6 high clearance pan. That'll give us a lot more ground clearance right under the pumpkin. Now you'll notice the old original drum brakes are gone. I'm going to install some new brakes when I put these axles in the truck on a later show. Right now we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to show you how I'm going to steer these big old boys. Welcome back. Today we're talking about big trucks, big tires, big axles, and how to make it all work together on your project. That brings up steering, specifically hydraulic steering. Now, hydraulic steering's been around for a while. They use it on ocean liners and airplanes and heavy equipment. And if you've got a big truck and you're going to use big axles and big tires, it's really the only way to go. That's the good news. The bad news is that hydraulic steering is not DOT approved for street use in most states, which means if you're going to put these big old boys on your truck with hydraulic steering, you better check your state laws. You might be in trouble. Okay, if you've decided that a hydraulic steering system is what you want to do, first call you need to make is to Vince Nowak at the Nowak Company. Now, Vince has been building hydraulic steering systems for over 20 years. And if you've ever seen Bigfoot, or any other monster truck for that matter, then you have seen a Nowak steering system in action. Now, as you probably guessed, I'm going to put hydraulic steering on the front and the rear of Sergeant Rock. This is how the system is laid out. Now, with hydraulic steering, you're using fluid instead of mechanical linkage. So you don't have a steering box, no drag link, no pitman arm, no tie rod, nothing like that. In its place, you've got what they call a Charlene valve. Now, this bolts right to the frame, and then this goes to your steering column. So when you turn the wheel, this sends fluid down to the cylinder on the axle and turns your wheels back and forth. Now, of course, you need a pump. So for the front steering, a power steering pump off of a 1-ton pickup is perfect. For your rear steering, the Nowak Company has this electric pump that they'll set up for the weight of your vehicle and exactly how you're going to use it. So this is the way to go on that. Now, down on the axle, of course, you need some sort of a cylinder. Now, the Nowak Company has got this double cylinder, and the reason this is so good is it gives you equal steering either way. It's very balanced. Now, the final piece to this puzzle are these little clevises that come from One Up Off-Road. They slide right on the rod ends, and then your stock tie rod end threads right in here. Then this whole assembly replaces your stock tie rod over on the axle, and that's it. Now, of course, you will have to build a bracket to mount this cylinder to the axle. Then, of course, you'll have to hook up your wiring and your hoses and things like that. And I'm going to show you how to do that on an upcoming show. But at least, hopefully for now, you have kind of an idea of how hydraulic steering is laid out. I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier than most people think. And once you've driven something with rear steering, it's hard to be without it. You know, one modification that I do a lot on the show is to suspension. Lifts, lower, bigger tires. And every time I do one of those projects, I remind you that you need to get to the alignment shop after suspension work. But why? What's an alignment? What does it consist of? What's going on? Well, good questions. We're going to show you how it works.
How It Works is brought to you by Wyotech.
All right, Steve, as you know, most people go to an alignment shop, drink a cup of coffee, expect miracles to happen in the back room, have no idea what caster and camber and toe-in mean. We're going to explain that to them. Okay, let's start with caster. What is going on with caster?
Caster is the backward and forward tilt of the upper and lower ball joints.
Okay, so what happens when you have too much positive caster?
It's going to be extremely hard to steer.
Because it changes the axis of the spindle.
Right.
Actually, you can be steering uphill.
Pretty much, yeah.
How about negative
And
caster?
it's going to be really loose, easy to steer.
But very unstable.
Right.
Kind of like a
very unstable.
unicycle.
Right.
Okay. Now, how about camber? What are we talking about?
Camber is the inward and outward tilt at the top of the tire.
Okay. So as your tire's sitting, say it's wearing on the inside or the outside, that's a camber issue, right?
Right.
Okay. Pretty much want the tire to sit vertical.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. Now, the adjustments for caster and camber up here on the A-arm.
Right, on most vehicles they are.
Okay. Now, toe-in. What are we talking about when we say toe-in?
Toe in is the inward and outward tilt of the tires. Toe out would be
Okay.
the farthest.
Now, how do you
closest to the
adjust
back.
that?
It's all done with tie rod ends.
They're on the tie rod. All right, that's the terms. Now we're going to see how those translate onto the machine. All right, Steve, let's...
On this particular hunter machine, we use the targets on the wheels. The machine bounces a light off the targets, and that's how we get our measurements on the screen.
Very cool. Now we're going to mock up an alignment using this little red box. Steve, this is what the technician sees. Tell us what we're looking at here.
Well, as you can tell, red's bad, good, green is good.
Okay.
We're way out of
Side's
specs
way out of
as far
whack.
as camber, caster, and toe. So
Okay, so the technician comes in, he adjusts camber first, gets it into the green, then he adjusts the caster, brings that up into the green, and then the toe, All right, now we're all into the green. Are we aligned?
No, we need to get it as close to factory specs as we can.
Okay, so you come in here and you tweak these numbers,
Right, yeah.
fine tune it, right?
Yep.
Okay, now obviously the technician would be down under the vehicle making these adjustments on the rig, not on the red box, but this is what it would look like. Now, these settings, how much leeway does the technician have?
You have a little bit, but you want to compensate for road crown and stuff like that.
Okay, now, a modified rig, bigger tires, suspension lift. What does that do to all this?
Oh, it changes it, definitely. But what you want to do, the main thing is to stay in the green and make sure that you're not going to wear out the front tires.
Okay.
That's the most important thing.
Now,
so you want everything in the green.
With a modified suspension and tires, can you get it perfect?
Never going to get it perfect.
Never
you
going
can
to
get it close.
perfect. Well, there you go. Now you know what's going on in the alignment shop. So you can go back to drinking that cup of coffee because now you know how it works. If you're watching this show, you probably like tools. And one tool that's been raising a lot of questions lately is an English wheel. Where do you find one? Well, simple. Commander Chassis in Woodbury, Tennessee. They are the ones that put this wild thing together for me. Now, this started out as just a crazy idea that I drew out one day. Got with Charlie at Commander Chassis. He threw in his ideas. And then Hinman's Body Shop put on some paint. And I've ended up with one of the wildest English wheels I've ever seen. But this is a real English wheel. Check this out. All my anvils are mounted here in the back. This little mock-up engine just lifts right out if I'm ever working on a big panel in here. And the important area, the wheeling area, it's got all the adjustments, all the releases that you need to build whatever custom panel that you want to make. Of course, if you want a normal-looking English wheel, well, you know, they've got those too. So, if you want cool tools, both in look and in performance, Commander Chassis is the place. For those of you that have a 67 through 72 GM truck and you want to keep it cool, Old Air Products has got something you need to take a look at. Now, this is a dual electric fan system. It bolts right on behind your radiator and allows you to get rid of that old mechanical fan and shroud. Now take a look at this. Everything is all hooked up, the wiring's in place, your relays are on, the thermostat's on. All you do is bolt this on and hook it up. Now these fans, they pull enough airflow to cool an air-conditioned big block on a hot day. So if you like to drive your truck and you want to keep it cool, Old Air Products can help you out. Since we're on the subject of cool, your transmission could definitely handle some because the main cause of transmission failure is excessive heat. Well, that's okay because B&M has the Super Cooler. Now, this not only keeps your transmission fluid cool, but it also is small, so it doesn't take up much room. It's really easy to put in, and it comes with all the hardware to put it in. So, if you want your transmission to survive, especially if you tow a lot, get a B&M Super Cooler and forget about it.